I just don't know. I just don't feel like this
Jerry
is something...
Falwell does not poop. Jerry Falwell and Kim Jong-un.
That's a sin.
Yeah.
Everybody poops except Jerry Falwell.
And Kim Jong-un.
Oh my gosh. The things they didn't teach me at Liberty University.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Every once in a while, people ask me, hey, what do you talk about on your podcast? A little bit of everything. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangent. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Oh, man. The things you people miss out on that are available at patreon.com/therapy. I learned something today. Thank you. That definitely assists.
Thanks.
Yes. That's all relevant, actually. We learned... Well, Jim
That was a
learned
baby goat.
what bidets are and what they're not. I think I'm still working through that with the imagery of this and the mechanics of this. And ringing endorsements from both of you. Very pro bidet. I'm a holdout on this one.
Yeah.
Maybe the day
You're
will
just
happen.
wrong.
Maybe my bidet will come. But today is not that bidet, gentlemen.
One bidet, my prince will come.
You got to take life one bidet at a time.
One bidet, my prince will come.
Patreon.com/therapy, and you can hear all about the new bidet situation in Nick's life, the advanced level platinum bidet situation in Jacob's life.
Oh, that's where you're wrong. I don't have the advanced one.
Oh, really?
There are much more advanced ones than mine.
Man, that's hard to believe.
I
You
have,
sent me
like-
a picture of yours. It's
I
got
have
a remote
like
control.
I have a mid-level.
Jeez, that's crazy.
My friends are redoing their bathroom right now, and they are putting in like the full fancy Japanese toilet. It's like a couple of grand for this toilet.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh, a couple of grand?
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
That's a really quality TV.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're just going to poop
They
all
might have been
over
like
it.
1,500, but it was. They told me how much it cost, and I forgot.
Dang.
But usually they are thousands.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. So if you want to hear all
That's a
about bidets, and if you are a bidet manufacturer or distributor or retailer,
Or if
please
you know
call in.
one.
Or if you know one. Apparently, we are enthusiastically seeking a bidet sponsor for the show.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Jacob
As
would
I
like
said
to
in the
try
Patreon,
your products.
I will switch bidets. I like mine a lot. I have something to compare it to.
Yeah.
I will switch bidets to your brand of bidet.
It's like the
Mr.
100
Mr.
Sleep
Bidet manufacturer.
Challenge. Yes, Mr. Bidet. Or Miss Bidet. Or
Yep,
Mrs.
yep.
Bidet. Or
You
they
know what?
bidet.
Or beignets, too.
Beignets and
or
bidets.
Beignets and bidets. We will change the name of this show.
Ooh.
We will change the name of this show tomorrow
Guys,
to bidets and beignets.
I think the new business model has been discovered. I think that's it right there. That's a storefront. That's a family-owned
and if
business.
you do enough of
50
one, you
years in
need the other.
operation. Welcome to Jacob Smith's beignets
Beignets and
Beignets and
bidets.
bidets.
Beignets and bidets. Who's not going in there? You know, I'm
Beignets for bidets.
I don't know that I care for either of those things. I don't know that I've had either of those things. If I had a beignet, yeah, I think I've had a
Fried
beignet.
donut.
Yeah, I think I had
Yeah.
one of those. I had one of those at Rhythm Kitchen back when, but they didn't have
There you go.
bidets. So,
I was not a fan
patreon.com/therapy
of Rhythm Kitchen.
to learn all about it.
I wasn't that sad that it closed.
We always do extra time, which you can access at patreon.com/therapy. You can also access deep dive content that we sometimes produce as the opportunity strikes us. And I actually posted some deep dive content on our Patreon in the previous week. If you'd like to go check it out. If you do subscribe to our Patreon, when you go in there, you can click on some of the little hashtags that we've used in the past to organize our content. If you click on deep dives, you'll find all sorts of stuff where we talk about military mental health and the how the top secret clearances work and why that sometimes prevents people from getting help. We talk
that's
about
interesting.
narcissistic personality disorder. We do a deep dive on that. We talk about how to deal with imposter syndrome and how to treat imposter syndrome. These are just some of the ones that I'm remembering off the top of my head. Most recently, the deep dive that we did was on ketamine, which is a hallucinogen, and whether or not that is effective at treating depression. A lot of new research out, and we share a panel discussion with 3 psychiatrists from various universities as they debate the topic. And it's a good 20-minute deep dive with them and a 20-minute deep dive with me, kind of setting up that conversation and giving you some basic information. But is ketamine effective? It's popping up all over the country as a way to treat depression when depression's more treatment resistant.
I'll tell you this, I'm willing to give it a shot.
There you go. Patreon.com/therapy. Oh, you mean you're waiting to give ketamine a shot?
Yeah.
Yep. Patreon.com/therapy. Access our extra content.
You think he was talking about listening?
I didn't
to
think
an
he was.
episode?
I don't think he was going to put it.
I'm not
He's
gonna
not going to the
Yeah,
Patreon
it's
at all.
okay.
I'm fine.
Well, let's do the part of the show where we
He just said
answer
it. I don't know what the
questions.
Patreon address is.
First question is titled, "Am I Addicted?" from Neck Pubes. Hello, gents. I'm a new listener. Oh, wait, before we go into that, we are back to Best of Las Vegas season as this episode is airing.
Nice.
Since this is the first one of September, go to votejim.net. Help me get elected Best of Las Vegas. We're going to vote for me at votejim.net. It's that time of year, people.
Did anybody nominate Audio Guy Life Coaching?
Luckily, I didn't even know nominations were open, and I went through my spam looking for a email from Honda, and I discovered the Best Las Vegas nominations was open the day before it closed, and so I had just enough time to blast on our social media and say, please nominate me. I think enough people did by the time I'm
Nice.
recording this that I feel confident enough to say, go to votejim.net, discover how to vote for me. Vote for me every day, every device throughout all of September. Help me win my white whale, my gold trophy. I've gotten silver the last 2 years in a row, and last year I was beaten by the goddamn occupational therapists. And I don't even know how that happened.
That's still my favorite.
That was
know.
ridiculous.
I'm very
guys.
happy with that one.
Help me win.
Are they
This
running
is
again?
my
Because I'd like to vote for
redemption
them.
arc.
Yeah.
This is no, goddamn it.
No, I do want everybody to go out and vote for Jim
Thank you,
because
Nick. Thank
it would be tragic if you finish in third. You need
Don't want that.
You need enough votes to get the silver.
Silver, you just want me
For
to
a
get
third-
right there.
a third year in a row.
Just to stop short of victory.
Yes.
One
Yeah.
more time.
But we need to make sure
Look,
we
guys,
get at least a silver. 'cause
if I
otherwise
win gold,
not
it's
funny.
over. If I win gold, I'm not putting you through this again. Okay?
I'll tell you
say it
right
right now. If
now.
I win, I'm out.
I'll tell you right now, if Jim wins bronze, I'll be very happy.
No. Give me your votes. It's getting
I-
harder every
I
year.
Higher
will
than
be-
silver, though.
I will be thrilled.
It's
if Jim
gonna
gets
look.
bronze.
I'll tell you this. I think if I get the same number of votes
If
this year,
Jim could get bronze with whoever has beat him for gold in first and second
oh Lord,
for the last 2 years, if they could get
Those
gold and
two
silver and then
land.
Jim
Yeah.
just gets bronze,
I'll tell you.
I would be thrilled.
I think if I got the same
That
amount
would
of
be
votes,
best case scenario.
if I
would be
get the
pretty good.
same votes this year as last year, I don't think I get silver. Because now there are some major therapy clinics starting to play in this field, and they have advertising teams. Like last year's third place finalist is a rival of mine, but they are a full-blown clinic. Like their ownership just does marketing. That is what they do. The ownership of my practice is me. I don't do marketing. This was it. You heard it on my podcast. That was it. That was the whole marketing thing. I do treatment. So votejim.net.
And also, you don't want to know what Nick and I are going to charge you for this marketing.
That's true. That's the upcharge on this is going to be outrageous.
Yep.
So
They're going to
Anyway.
spend less on their marketing.
you're going to hear me talk about it all month, and usually during the month of September, to encourage people to go to votejim.net and vote for Jim, I post lots of extra content on the Patreon. So if you're not already coming over there, patreon.com/therapy, throw a buck in the hat, because I'm going to go in there and put a lot of content up and on our social media. So if you're not already following us on Instagram at PodTherapyGuys, or on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, or on our Facebook at PodTherapy, now's the time to do it, because I usually post lots of educational content through this month as I beg you to vote for me every day, every device.
Also, if you go to patreon.com/therapy, you will not hear Jim beg for votes on the Patreon show.
Yeah, yes, somehow.
That's right.
That's also a lie. All right, first question. Am I addicted? From Neck Pubes. That's an interesting name. Hello,
Neck Pubes.
Hello, Neck Pubes. Hello, gents. I'm a new listener, but I've binged the last 20 episodes or so in reverse order.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm recovering from a broken leg, so I'm playing video games while listening to podcasts, and after hearing you on the Morning Murders Scoop Fest episode.
Very nice.
Wow, we got a Morning Murders listener. That's cool. I decided to give you a try.
Neck pubes is also a scoop.
Oh, okay.
That's a scoop
And
name,
I'm
too.
glad I did. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Neck Pubes found us via the Murder
Yeah.
Scoop Fest thing. Gotcha. After about a year ago, my depression got real bad and started experiencing suicidal ideation. I decided I should probably tell my doctor about it, and he prescribed me Lexapro and therapy. My therapist was great, but she moved out of state and I hadn't gotten around to contacting a new therapist. Over the next few months, my Lexapro seemed less effective, and I was gaining a lot of weight. In 1 year, I've gained 90 pounds. On top of that, my depression was getting worse, and I was starting to plan ways of killing myself by faking an accident so that my wife would get my insurance money. I remembered something Jacob said on ICS a long time ago when a Scoop wrote in about their struggles. He plainly said, "Scoops, if you're thinking about killing yourself, don't do that. Maybe get some help." I saw my doctor again and was switched to Wellbutrin this time. I'm hoping the medication switch will help, but I think I need to talk to someone again. I have some addictive personality traits. I used to smoke, I used to drink, I like to work overtime, etc., but I don't seem to have a lot of the same struggles that addicts describe. However, I get that same fleeting enjoyment from food that I used to get from a cigarette or whiskey. As I'm trying to stop eating so much, I'm playing video games for 16 plus hours a day. I've never felt like I'd qualify as a user, in that I'm usually able to quit something, but I usually replace it with something else. When I quit smoking, I started chewing tobacco. To quit chew, I started chewing sunflower seeds, then gum, now food, etc. As I'm looking for therapists, would I benefit from someone who specializes in addiction and dependency to help with my weight loss and change my eating habits? My main goals are to tackle depression, motivate myself to live healthier, and be a better person for the people around me. There are a lot of therapists in my town that cover most of the issues I have going on, but only a couple that also do the addiction and recovery thing, and they're pretty booked. Do I need them in my case? Could I benefit from one of the others? Thank you for doing this show, Neck Pubes. Man, that's a good question. And very apropos, because, to plug, people's projects here, this is one of the things that got you, Nick, motivated to kind of start to weave together fitness and health training along with mental health and your background in addictions work, because this is a cycle many people deal with where they kind of connect to these, whether it's a coping skill or it's a habit, or maybe it's on the verge of what we would call addiction. It's so common that you thought, okay, this is where we need people like me to step in here and try to deal with a lot of things at once. So this is a great question. It's coming at exactly the right time.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not, even if we're not looking at food as an addiction, because it doesn't necessarily have to be an addiction to have an unhealthy relationship with it.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's kind of what's happening. People can have unhealthy relationships with food, and most generally we think about unhealthy relationships with food as going the other direction, like
not eating,
anorexia or bulimia, things like that. And we definitely need to be mindful of those, and unhealthy relationships with food can go the other way as well. And it sounds like this is kind of what Neck Pubes is talking about, is it's kind of becomes that coping mechanism.
Right.
And food has an amazing, the way it interacts with the brain is really fascinating, because it's not just the issues of all of the stuff that we're, craving or that we eat, that we ingest, has a biological effect on the brain, but also it has a psychological effect. So like the biological effect, let's talk first and foremost about sugar, right? Sugar has an amazingly strong effect on the brain.
Right.
And
right away, too.
Yeah. And we can become very addicted to sugar.
Yeah. And it's in everything now.
It is. And, and sugar's important.
Like bread.
Yeah.
It's in like sandwich bread.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
It's nuts whenever you look at the back of like any random thing and you're like, wait, what the hell? Like salt and sugar, man. Like crazy. And you're like, dude, I didn't even know that was in there.
And sugar's important, I mean, glucose, that's what our brains run on. That's the fuel of our brains.
So it's giving you that burst.
Yeah, I mean,
that you need.
It's important to have, but the thing that we need to remember is that, like, biologically, we can function on the amount of sugar that we would find in vegetables.
Oh, right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you eat an apple,
it does not.
That's plenty of sugar.
Yeah, I mean,
biologically.
yeah. I mean, like what you'd find in, spinach or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't take much and we're going to be okay.
But I imagine our evolution wants us to
Yeah,
go for sugar.
absolutely, because it's
in the wild, we didn't find shit tons of it. We weren't
Exactly.
growing it. So our
Exactly.
brain never needed to like throttle that shit back. It was like, hey, anytime you find that and it tastes good, eat the shit out of that.
anytime you find it, if you can get your hands on it, you got to eat it.
Yeah, all of it,
Because
as much as you
Yeah,
can.
because again, like our brains depend on glucose.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how they function. So
yeah.
So there's that component of it, and it's almost kind of like, obviously, we've created mechanisms of having an abundance of this stuff,
Right.
more than we could ever need, but our brains are still stuck on, if you ever get a chance, make sure you get this.
Right.
Well, now it's not that, it's everywhere.
Well, and it's fascinating because you do have some similar symptoms to what we've seen in rehabs, because you also go through kind of a withdrawal thing whenever you try not to have those things in your diet. Like you said, there's a biological piece.
Yeah.
There's a psychological piece.
Yeah, and the psychological piece is interesting too, because it's comfort food.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, I mean, when I'm stressed about something,
Right.
you know,
Have to eat.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, just having anything that reminds me of home, or reminds me of my grandma's house or something like that.
Right.
Like anything that kind of reminds me of that, or just kind of has a calming effect on me,
Right.
becomes that comfort food. So now we're talking about having constant, cravings for this food, being incredibly stressed, dealing with depression.
Right.
So now we've got the psychological effect of the food.
Right.
You've got video games, which obviously that has a calming effect too, and
Sure.
that can be
It's an
comforting.
escape.
Yeah, it's an escape. So we've got that, but then the other thing too with video games is now we're combining the food intake with being sedentary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like it's just a constant cycle of we're just adding more and more things to it.
Man, it's a hard cycle to break.
Yeah, and then
like, God, that's
so then
thick.
So then ultimately when you're sedentary and you're eating the foods that you're eating, you're not actually helping deal with the depression.
Right.
It's actually probably making the
It's
depression even
counterproductive.
worse.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So we're going to have to break that cycle.
It's hard to find that initial motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so like recently I got reports from my healthcare providers that basically said, get your shit together, Jim. It's time to get serious. Right. And so, okay, I slap my hands together, and, some people are motivated by the carrot. Some people are motivated by the stick. You and I talk about that in rehabs all the time. Some people look at themselves in the mirror and they say, man, I can't wait to have a six-pack, and I'm going to, look good, and, bathing suit season's coming up, and I just blah, blah, blah. And they get really excited, and they want to go to the gym, and they like it. Or some people, like I remember Terry Crews, a famous actor, he's built, stacked. He's the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's a sergeant. And he was from Everybody Hates Chris. He talks about going to the gym and treating it like a spa day. He says, get yourself to a place where you mentally start thinking about going to the gym as a nice thing that you look forward to. And it's like, oh, yeah, I get to go to the gym today. I have never been that guy. I've never been the guy that's like, oh, boy, I want to look good. That'll feel fun. Or, you know what, I enjoy exertion. Like, even as a kid, I wasn't like, oh, I want to go play basketball. Like, I would play, but, like, I didn't look forward to it. I wasn't a rambunctious boy that, like, enjoyed exerting myself just for the fun of it. I wasn't like, oh, let's go fucking run around the park. Like, I'm good. I'll sit down and read a book or whatever. Like, I didn't want to do that shit. So, like, for me, I've always had an aversion to all that. But then whenever you are in a health moment and, like, it's time to get your shit together, you really sit down and you take inventory of all this, and you realize how emotional food and all of this is, and how stuck you are in a cycle. And I really relate to neck pubes, because it's like that word addiction feels right in so many ways. Like, you and I know the clinical definition of the word, so we kind of want to parse it and go, well, not really, But on a really deep existential level, it feels like this net that is draped over every inch of my life. Like last night I worked late. And I usually work late one night of the week, and that just is to get in folks that need a late night appointment, and I want to make time for them, so I do that. And so I finish up my night, and I go down, to the kitchen and stuff, and my fridge is full of barbecue food from the night before, from the weekend. And it's like, okay, I'm trying really hard. Don't grab that, Jim. Don't make yourself a burger. Don't make yourself a hot dog. So I decide I'm going to make myself a broccoli salad. I had bought some fresh broccoli, so I sit down, I chop it up, I get out a bag of salad, I throw that in a bowl, I throw the broccoli on top, I put on some very normal dressing, not even drench it in ranch like I like, No cheese, no croutons. Broccoli on top of lettuce with a very modest dressing. I can't tell you how sad I was.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how sad
I'm
I was.
amazed that you did it. Not to say that I'm amazed that you did it at all, but I guess I'm amazed in the fact that you had to actually prepare it, because that's the
hard.
struggle that most people
Yup.
run into.
Oh, you
Is
have
it's
no
like,
idea.
oh, well, I would eat healthy, but I have to prepare all that
Yes.
stuff, and so it's probably just easier for me to hit
A lot of the
Wendy's on
junk
way
in my
home.
life is just about simplicity.
Yeah,
Because
and
I'm
that's-
tired. I don't want to do this. A chore. I don't want to do a chore and then
Yeah.
clean dishes.
Yeah.
And then, no, I want to grab this already made cheeseburger with melted cheese on top, Nick. Okay, I make a good damn cheeseburger. These were sirloin burgers from Costco. All right. And I didn't get to have any.
From Costco.
Costco. They make the good ones. And I have hot dogs. And when I make a hot dog, I make a damn good hot dog, okay? I put the hot dog in the bun. I put mayonnaise on that bun. I don't know if you guys like mayonnaise on your dogs. Probably don't. I call it Chicago
Not
style.
on a hot dog.
A
No.
little bit of mustard, a little bit of ketchup, and a dill pickle. I take a pickle
All right.
spear. I put that in there too. I don't fuck around, man. And like, it's simple to make. I can have it in minutes. I could sit down with my plate of hot food and put on Mythbusters and just enjoy my evening time. And it's like you said, it's this mentality of like, my work day's done. I'm relaxing now, and I'm going to eat things that feel good. I feel like I've earned this. But instead, I'm sitting there with a bowl of lettuce and broccoli. And it's emotionally defeating. And it's so hard because how can the brain, like you just said, the brain gets high off this other stuff. It's like, fat, simplicity, meat, sugar, all these lipids and all this bullshit and cholesterol that's in all this shit that I want to put on my sandwiches and the dairy and the cheese and all that. My brain, if you could put an fMRI machine on my brain, I'm sure it fucking lights up. I'm sorry, I've become neck pubes right now because I'm very emotional about this. And then like when you try to get away from that, it is depressing.
Yeah.
Initially it is depressing, but it's like that's the medicine we need.
Yeah, well, and the other thing though too is we have to change our relationship with food, and you have to change what food means to you. And one of the ways that I think a lot of people go, I can't say everybody finds success in their own way,
Yeah.
right? So what works for one person may not work for 10 other people, 20 other people.
That's true.
Sure.
You kind of have to find something that works for you. But what I have seen before is when people have this relationship with food where they define food as like, this is good food, and then this other food is bad food, then it becomes a problem, because then what you're doing is you're associating morals with eating.
Yeah.
Right. So
Boy,
you're
and then
like,
the guilt and shame gets mixed
exactly.
up in there.
And then now
Yeah.
you're adding guilt and shame on top of the depression you're
Yup.
already dealing with.
Yup.
And so if you eat quote unquote bad food, then now you're like, oh, I feel terrible. And now I did this.
Stop reading my journal.
Ex-
It's offensive. It's an invasion.
So-
you shouldn't be doing it.
So what I do, and again, this isn't going to work for everybody, but it works for me. I don't define food as being good food or bad food. I define food as falling in two categories. There's food for fuel
And sex.
and food for pleasure.
Okay. Yeah, I was not wrong.
You're not wrong. You're not far off. Yeah, you're not far off.
You need that
So-
fuel. You need that fuel for that sex.
Yes.
You
So
gotta fuel the sex machine.
so if I order a pizza from Domino's, that's
Ugh.
not food for fuel.
That's fun food.
It's also not food for pleasure.
Yeah.
Sexy food. Yeah, honestly, Domino's pretty gross.
Come
Yeah,
on.
pick something better.
Anyway,
I follow your logic though.
yeah. So
Junky
I mean,
food.
Point
that's
taken,
fun.
but come
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But fuel, I'm not really getting a whole. My body's like, okay, great, thanks. Like, I
Yeah.
guess we'll use this because it's what you're giving us,
Right.
but it's not what my body needs.
While
So
we're
it's like-
here,
It's like if I had a Lamborghini and I put the nastiest, most disgusting fuel in
Right.
that engine.
you just
Yeah.
poured kerosene into
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Right.
It's like, I mean, it'll run, but it's not going to run how it's supposed to run.
Right.
You know, so, but I also don't want to only have food for fuel,
Okay.
right? I don't want to, because I don't want to live like that.
Yeah, because you do
Yeah,
recognize, like your brain lights up like mine.
I mean, when I go back home to Iowa, I want some scotcheroos, you know?
what
I
the
want
hell's a scotcheroo?
we'll talk about that later. They're amazing.
You know how
They're
you make a
bars.
Scotch egg?
Yeah.
No,
What you do
what's
is
a Scotch egg?
you get a roux, like a baby kangaroo,
Kangaroo?
and you prepare that like you would a Scotch egg.
Yeah.
I don't even know what any
of
these things are.
But yeah, I mean, like, I still want to have all that fun stuff, right? But what I do is I just prioritize.
Right. Well, like I
Okay.
went, we have friends in town right now, and they wanted to go eat at a Las Vegas buffet. So we went and had lunch today at the Wynn Buffet.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
how was that?
It's very good. It's one of the top 3 buffets.
Do they have
It's
seafood?
a good one.
They do.
Ooh.
Yeah. I had some big crab claws, among other things
Ooh,
today. It was
nice.
really good stuff. But like, I'm going there knowing I'm going to indulge myself
Right.
while I'm eating this food today, and I know that I have to make up for this later on. I'm not young enough that I can just eat that and pretend that I just had a normal meal
Right.
and then carry on with life. Like no, I have to tomorrow I have to eat healthy to offset the ridiculous amount of food that I ate today. It was all good food, but and we had desserts and we indulged.
Yeah.
We did all of the things that you do every now and then, as Ray Cronice would say, the rare and appropriate. And you do all of those things every so often, and it's nice.
It's so, yeah, I mean, like I have a similar approach, except what I do different is that I front load fuel first. So,
yeah.
so
I see
like,
your
okay,
logic.
so I know what I need for my body throughout the day. I know how many grams of protein I should have. I know what I should have for carbs and fats. And so I make sure I get those things first. And then if I want to throw in something else,
you
I'll
covered
do
the
that.
basics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
the
do
work's
that.
done.
All right.
But here's the trick too, is I also make sure I get enough water and I make sure
It's
I
a
load
desert
up.
out there.
I load up on my veggies,
Okay.
right? Because I don't know if you've ever, well, you have, I'm sure, eaten 2 cups of broccoli.
Apparently, I did yesterday.
You're not all that hungry after that.
No, yeah. No, that's exactly it. I was
and so-
unhappy, but I was full.
Yeah, exactly. So what I do is I front load the fuel first.
Okay.
And then if I want to have food for pleasure later, I can do that.
Interesting.
I will not eat
and
2
it's-
cups of broccoli. I will not do it.
No, you got to put on that sexy music first. Then it's
Yeah.
pleasure food.
Not going to do it.
No, okay.
No.
Yeah, that's right. You don't like broccoli.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he
Yeah,
has
yeah,
a deep
we forgot
hatred
about
of
that.
broccoli.
Yeah.
I
Hate
forget that.
broccoli.
God, weird hill to die
so
on.
here's my suggestion for neck pubes. One thing that I would do, if I were to encourage you to start this process, is I would say to start small, and then do something to build off of it every day. I mean, and I mean small. Start real small. Change nothing else, but go for a walk around the block today.
Right. Eat an
Okay.
apple. One
Yeah.
apple.
Then tomorrow, do your walk, eat an apple.
Right.
Day after that, do your walk, eat your apple, whatever.
I'll tell you this,
and then
Neck
just
Pubes,
kinda
it is
go off of that.
very pleasant to walk while eating an apple.
There you go.
It is so nice. Just like take a nice walk outside while eating an apple. That's a really nice way to just like spend half an hour.
When
half an
you
hour.
eat an apple, Jacob, I only imagine, my brain can only see you eating an apple one way.
Okay.
And that way is walking, holding a Bowie knife, pushing the blade through with your thumb, slicing off little hemispheres of this apple,
Yep.
and then raising the blade to your teeth and plucking it off the blade with your teeth.
Yeah, that's it.
That's how, okay.
Yeah, that's
the
accurate.
only way my brain
That's
knows
accurate.
that you eat an apple.
I'll
Otherwise,
tell
I
you,
don't think you
I
would
eat an
do
apple
the
2 different ways.
Okay, there's that way.
There's that way.
Bowie knife way.
Well, that's actually really close to way number 2.
Okay.
That's very close to way number 2. Way number 1 is just apple in hand, walking along, eating the apple.
Yeah.
And then you're left with the apple core that has all the teeth marks and everything in it. When you're done, you throw the apple core away. That's way number 1. Way number 2 is with a knife, usually a larger than necessary knife, because I'll just grab like a kitchen knife, like a chef's knife or something. And then I will have little like 1-inch squares of very, very sharp cheddar cheese.
Oh.
And I'll slice off a little hemisphere of apple and then put that square of, I'm talking like unpleasantly sharp cheddar cheese if you were to eat it without anything else.
Huh.
And I'll pop that whole thing in my mouth, and that is wonderful.
Interesting.
You go like ultra sharp cheddar with a slice of apple. That is a great snack.
That is okay. This became a really good cooking show.
Yeah.
I think that this is where we're at.
Oh, and neck pubes. I can't believe the guys haven't said this yet. The therapist question, whether or not to do the addiction specialist or not, whichever one you can get into first, man.
Yeah.
And I mean,
a lot
like,
of times that's the right answer.
Go ahead and do that today. If you're listening to this show, earlier in the day or whatever, go ahead, start making some phone calls and inquiries today.
Yeah.
If you can't do it today, do it tomorrow. Get up, get up an hour or two earlier than you need to do other stuff, and go ahead and just do it. There's no reason to not do it. There's no reason to wait on it. Go ahead, just get that help now.
Yes.
Because why the fuck not?
Right.
Just do it.
Right.
Just go do it. It'll be a little bit of a pain, just like it always is. If you have to find a new general practitioner.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a pain.
Healthcare's inconvenient.
But you got to do it.
You always do it.
And so go ahead, do it today, or if you can't do it today, do it tomorrow. But I'm saying tomorrow at the latest.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and knock that shit out.
I love it.
I think movement is going to be your friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Movement, anytime you can. And this is one of the things, too. Like a lot of people, when they're talking about losing weight, one of the things that they really want to focus on is going to the gym, which is good, definitely important. But where you really notice changes is the small things. So this, what's known as NEAT, which is non-exercise active thermogenesis.
Okay.
Which basically is just movement that you're doing throughout the day that you're not exercising.
Yeah.
Just adding movement throughout the day. Taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator.
Right.
Going for an extra walk, just doing even just fidgeting at your chair, like any of that stuff. It's really small, but it adds up. So the other thing too, and again, like I've said this before on the show, that I really do believe that once we understand more about the way exercise affects the brain, we've always associated the benefits of exercise as being the benefits it has on your cardiovascular system, which is definitely there. But I think that once we fully understand the effects that it has on the brain, those benefits are far outweighing the benefits of the cardiovascular system.
And it sounds like it doesn't have to be this sit down and do a million push-ups.
Yeah, exactly.
It can just be any kind of movement.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and get a gym membership today. It doesn't mean you got to, get ready to run a 5K or a marathon. Just movement. Any type of movement.
Anything.
You know what? Play video games. Do it standing up.
Well, he did break his leg, so maybe not that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
whatever you can.
But you're recovering,
right?
And you can really easily keep track of this,
right?
So, for instance, if you want to play video games for 8 hours a day,
right?
Move for an hour,
right? At the top of every hour, you pause, you get on the crutches, you hobble out to the mailbox, you do a lap, something to that effect. I think these are really good ideas. And really quick, I just wanted to comment on one thing. Well, really two. I love that when faced with the beginning of suicidal ideation, and this is just the awesome little community that we are and ICS is part of, and just, I love that like here I was having suicidal thoughts, and then I remembered fucking Jacob Smith from the podcast saying, hey, if you're having those thoughts, get off your ass, maybe get some help.
Yeah.
And the light bulb comes on. It's like, yeah, maybe I should do that. And I love that you did that. And anybody that's out there that is today having similar thoughts, this is that same moment for you where we are telling you maybe you ought to go ahead and get that help. You dial 988, 3 little numbers on the cell phone, and you can just talk to somebody about what's going on. They can pilot you through the situation. They can steer you to helpers. If you're like, man, I don't even know how to start that process, you can dial 3 numbers. You can dial 3 numbers,
988,
and then find out what's up. And they will give you more information. You can talk to somebody who knows better than you, and you can get pointed into the direction you need to go.
And if you feel like talking to someone on the phone is not enough, dial 911.
That's true.
If it is an emergency, it's a fucking emergency number.
That's right.
Dial the emergency number, or whatever the emergency number is in your country. Dial that emergency number.
They know what
and
to do.
they will send help.
So
because
that's
if
huge.
you kill yourself, you are fucking people that love you.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's all the stuff that I can say for you. There's all the stuff that I can say for you, and that is not nothing. That is important stuff. It's all the permanent solution to a temporary problem, all the cliches that we've all heard a million times. There's all of those things. You are fucking the people that love you. And I guarantee you that list of people is longer than you could possibly imagine that it is. If you're thinking to yourself, oh, there are a lot of people that love me, I promise you there are more.
It's more than you realize.
Yep.
So it's never an option. That's never a solution. You can always smash 3 numbers into the phone. And you know what? I love this letter because I think you taught the rest of the audience, no matter what you're feeling and that grip of depression, there's always a way forward. And you know what? It does get better. You got on the medicine, Lexapro. You switched medicines to Wellbutrin. By the way, just real quick PSA, a lot of people sometimes tell me, man, I'm scared to start like an antidepressant because I've heard people gain weight on that. And I try to tell them, you know that the people that are saying they gained weight also had depression, right? You know that's a side effect also of depression, right?
Weight loss
or
weight gain.
And weight loss are actually one of the criteria of depression. So that's already a co-occurring reality. Let's maybe not say that's the reason we're not going to take medicine, right? Because that's already a factor. So
also, if you're worried about that, maybe talk to the doctor
Let
instead
them
of
tell
whoever it is that told you that information.
Don't listen to Reddit. You know,
Yeah.
we're the therapy show telling you the co-occurrence of weight gain with some of these medicines often has more to do with the underlying problem that the medicine treats than it does anything else. These are not like pills that you take and all of a sudden each one's filled with 800 calories. Not how it works. So please think about that. But man, we're really glad to hear that you're back on the bicycle again. You're out there looking for help. Should you find an addictions person, like Jacob said, I'm completely with him on this. First available, get going again. You're going to find answers along the way. But I think you're asking the right questions. These are the questions that Nick's interested in, and he's pointing a lot of his professional work into, because all of us have an unhealthy attachment with a lot of things, and for a lot of us, it's food. And then that creates this weird cycle where our bodies don't feel good, our brains don't feel good. It's exacerbating our mental illness, and round the cycle goes. And we try to self-medicate with things that are ultimately making it worse. And it sounds like Neck to Pubes, you're realizing that. So it's time to make that change. First step, get into help and take that next one, man. We're proud of you. Good job writing in on this one. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about dealing with social anxiety. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben, Dawn, Richard, Macy, Sammy Scoop, Polygon, and Paris. And if you would like to become a therapy producer, head on over to patreon.com/therapy and you get to hear your name read at this time of the show.
Yay!
This
All right.
general time.
This general time.
Around now.
Right
now
Or later.
10:57 p.m. Give or take.
Ish.
All right, we still have 2 questions from Andrew from last week.
No, move on.
Was this the cartoon one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move on.
I was just dunking on these fools.
No, we don't need to do it. Jim wins these.
Look,
It's-
he doesn't
it's-
have more trivia in his pocket, buddy. This is it. He came with this prepared.
He better have more.
He does nothing more.
Okay.
There's not like a trench where he keeps all this.
And Nickelodeon's Fairly Odd Parents, how do they determine if a wish can be granted?
See.
Okay. I hope you're right. There's several management layers of fairy godparents, fairy great godparents, etc., and wishes that don't work are applied to the next layer upon the fairy bureaucracy, is A. B is their magic wand just sort of droop and fizzle out of any point where this failed where a failed wish would be helpful. God damn it, I can't talk tonight.
You're doing great.
Would be a helpful plot device. They have to figure out how to rework the wish into something that can be achieved. Sorry. God damn it.
What's
Tired.
D?
There's no D. C is there's a large set of rules that are consistently being amended. I'm going to go with B.
I actually don't watch this show at all, but I'm going to go with A because I remember there's like different layers
It's
of
C.
the fairies.
Yay!
He's got his win.
Thank you, Andrew.
And the lights. There he is flickering the lights. What a victory lap. All right. 1-0. Jacob, he of little faith in himself, pulls through in the end.
I didn't
Just
listen
like
to the
his
question
bidet.
or the answers.
That, ladies
I
and
can
gentlemen.
honestly tell you right now, I don't know what cartoon the question was about.
And yet he's in the lead.
Yep.
How does it feel to be a champion? Dealing
The
with
same.
social anxiety from Katie. Hello to my 2 favorite mental health experts and Jim.
Ah,
Hey, everybody, go to votejim.net. Vote for me. Best of Las Vegas. Help me win the gold. We'll
Or
wait
vote
for you
for
to come
Jacob.
back.
I mean,
No,
either's
it's not,
fine.
it's not available.
Either one's
My
fine.
question is, can you change your deep-rooted personality traits as an adult? The obvious answer to me is no, but I want it to be yes so bad. So I have to ask. Context. I'm a woman in my early 20s, and I'm very quiet, introverted, and shy. I've always been like this since I was a kid. I never liked strangers or having to speak up in front of people, even if it was just family members. I was diagnosed with social anxiety and general anxiety and recurring depression at about 13. I definitely feel like I barely have any anxiety anymore. I may worry more than others, but it rarely affects my conscious choices, and I haven't had a panic attack in many years. However, I'm still very quiet, shy, and introverted. I do my best and try to push myself to make casual conversation when I can, but it never goes far. I wish I was one of those people that can talk to anyone and make friends easily, but I'm not. Is this a trait I could develop? Or will I likely always be a quiet person? I'll spare the details of how being such a quiet person is negatively affecting my life in order to not make this an autobiography, but I'm just very unhappy with this aspect of myself for several reasons. Any words of wisdom are appreciated. Even words of stupidity are accepted because, let's be honest, I've listened to the show.
I'm Jim Jobin.
And I've heard some of where your conversations lead. Thanks,
Like what?
Katie.
Like
How
what,
dare
Katie?
you? Like bidets for
Give
an hour?
me 18 examples.
And then give me 20 more.
Yeah. Awfully presumptuous.
In this episode. This episode only.
Yeah.
Not counting the Patreon.
Don't count the Patreon.
Anything after the first commercial break. Give me 18
Anything
examples.
starting now.
Give me an example from when we finished your email to
right
right
now.
I need 36 examples.
Not counting all the times we've just delayed answering your email to talk about examples because we're offended.
I forgot what the email was.
I don't
All right.
remember either.
So
You got
here's
emails?
the thing. This is interesting.
broccoli, I
So I just got back last week from a work retreat.
Retreat?
Yes.
What? You didn't tell me about this. You guys take
I
work
didn't
retreats?
think it was relevant.
It's extremely relevant. You know how
Yeah.
exciting that is?
It was pretty exciting. But it's exciting for me because like I never get to spend time with my coworkers.
That doesn't sound nice.
Like our team, there's 4 of us down here in Southern Nevada.
Yeah.
Right. But we never really, I mean, we talk all the time. We don't have an office.
it's
we all
remote.
work from home.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So we never really get together. And then my boss lives in South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
My boss's boss lives in Idaho. And then there's a couple other that are up in Northern Nevada, or
Jeez.
one other person in Northern Nevada. So like we never get together as a team. And so it was really fun to get together and kind of hang out. And then we were with the rest, the other departments as
Mhm.
well. All right. So there was a group of about 52 of us, I think. So we did this thing when you get hired, it's called emergenetics.
Go on.
Okay. It's kind of similar to like that colors training thing.
Yeah.
If you've ever done that before, where you like take this really long psychological profile thing and it
Oh,
basically assigns you
like
a
what
color.
color's your parachute or whatever.
It's not,
It's
I don't
that
know anything
theory.
about a
It's
parachute.
the colors
but
thing.
yeah,
Like, you're a
it's
green.
basically
Yeah.
essentially the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll be honest, I always kind of felt like it was bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like I would agree with the results I got, but for me it was kind of like, okay, so
But
now
that's such
what?
an Aries
So
thing
now
to
what?
say.
Like what? Okay, where do I go now? Yeah, I know.
It's about the accuracy of the zodiac.
Right.
Yeah. But it's applicable. You
Okay.
can probably relate to each color in a way.
Yes, and you do.
Yeah.
Like it gives you a score in each color, and it kind of
Okay.
gives you your primaries and then a couple other things.
Okay.
All right, so
Can I guess what color you were?
sure.
Yellow.
Fuchsia.
Oh, shit. I should have said fuchsia. I want to change my answer.
Plum.
Yellow is conceptual.
Oh.
That was the area I scored the lowest in.
What were there 4 colors?
Yes.
Red, blue, green, and yellow?
Yes.
Okay, I think I've seen this thing once. Red was like, when I did it, it was like, red was like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, like really ambitious, like cutthroat kind of people. Yellow was like
no.
silly and like playful people. I don't remember what the
Yeah,
other
no,
two
this
were.
is different. They use the same colors, but different.
Okay.
Nick is obviously blue.
Are you blue?
Yeah.
Die.
He's 2 for 2.
I definitely know what that means.
He's Eiffel 65. Yeah.
So blue is conceptual. Not conceptual. Sorry, that was yellow. Yellow is conceptual. Blue is analytical.
Okay.
Green is more like the data people.
Yeah, like the data people.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
That's what I
And
think
then-
of when I think of green.
Yeah.
I think of
and
the data people.
And then the red, of course,
And
is
then the red is
social.
the social people.
Social
Right.
people. Yeah. Socially red,
Yeah.
data green.
So I scored really high in blue, and then my next one was red, which was social.
Oh.
So in this training, I actually I see the usefulness in it.
Okay.
Once we were able to all sit down as a group and kind of talk about this, and then it became very clear, like, okay, this is like how I want to be talked or how I want to be approached with something.
Mm.
Don't give me the whole goddamn backstory.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me where you want us to go.
Right.
Okay, tell me the end result. Tell me what obstacles are currently in the way, and then get out of the way and let me figure it out.
Right.
That's how I like to be dealt with.
Yeah. You don't want to hear the history of the problem.
Exactly. I don't need that whole long story, right? So get to the point. Anyway, so it was actually really useful for us to kind of sit down. But here's the interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
The red part, the social part. Because I scored very high in that. It was my second category.
Okay.
But I'm very introverted.
I wouldn't say very. Actually, you lurk in your own Discord.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's, yeah.
I
Never
do.
mind. Yeah. No.
I
yeah.
have a channel in the Discord that was created for me, and I
Yeah.
still don't
You,
participate.
you just sit
Okay,
there and read notes
yeah,
and then
I
just
just-
don't ever respond.
I'll like a few things. No, but I'm not very social, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's still a part of who I am, but I've worked really hard on it.
So change is possible.
I do think change is
Yeah.
possible. You know, like I still, you know, I'll go to Scoop Fest, but I'll sit in the corner.
Right.
You know, I'm
right.
not gonna go out of my way, but I do push myself.
Right.
Like I will, like, okay, this is gonna feel awkward. It's gonna feel uncomfortable, but let's go do this.
Right.
Let's go start a conversation. Let's go do something like that. And I've gotten better at it,
Yeah.
and I enjoy it, but it's still stressful. It
Yeah.
drains energy.
Right.
If I'm in an environment where I have to be social for a long period of time,
Right.
I'm drained.
Yeah.
So I think change is possible. I think it's always going to be there. It's probably always something that you're going to have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think things get better, or things.
I
will get
like the way
easier.
you're saying that because I do agree. I think that when Katie says, can deep core personality features, I don't know that I love the way it's languaged because that kind of starts to ask these deeper questions. Like human personalities are a thing, and
Mhm.
personality psychology is a very interesting area to study. But we generally consider it to be pretty vague, pretty nebulous. There's some big picture patterns, but even within those patterns, they can deviate and people can change. Like, look at Mark Zuckerberg. Everything about Mark Zuckerberg screams that if that dude was in the library and you saw him at Harvard freshman year, he didn't talk to one person that whole year. But he's also testifying to Congress. And he's also giving huge talks to, like, you know, his entire gigantic multinational staff. And, you know, he's still him, but, like, clearly he has been able to do new tricks and have new experiences and change a little bit of his range, right? So I think humans can do that through all sorts of encounters or changes. Like a lot of people join Toastmasters so they can get more
Right, yeah.
comfortable speaking to crowds, or you're put in situations where you just had to for work, for family, whatever, and you start to work new muscles of your character. And I think you find your way to do that behavior. And you're right. I think for some people it's more draining than another behavior would be to others. That's true. People can change.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's like this fundamental like makeover kind of thing. I think
There's got to be like
it's you.
online classes for like speech.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what Toastmasters is, by the way, if you don't know. It's going to learn to give speeches, and it's
That's
a
it.
support group for people that give speeches to each other on various topics. They challenge each other, and then they practice how to speak in front of a room of people.
And I
Become more
guarantee you,
confident.
you do something like that, you'll find other people who are there for the same reason that you're there.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
If
And
not
you may have
everyone.
negative energy associated with it, but you will be capable of doing it the more you practice any kind
And
of
I always wonder too, like the kind of the difference between like personality traits versus learned behavior.
Right.
You know, because sometimes these behaviors are learned because you maybe are amongst a group of people where you don't have to be outgoing because
Right.
other people are doing it for you.
Right.
And then you just kind of learn like, oh, this is kind of where I fit best. And then you just like, that's just kind of how you develop in that little,
Right.
in that zone.
I'm a big fan of being the version of you that does a particular thing.
Mhm.
So like, and I'm very interested in personality psychology, not just because I think it's just fascinating academically, but when you have children, this is something you think a lot about. Like you're watching your infant grow, they're a toddler, then you're watching them become like this like little 3 or 4 year old that like has a little personality, and that's when you're starting to like pick up on traits. But then you're like, oh, but I associate some of these traits with all little kids, right? And so then as they're growing, you're starting to notice who they are becoming. And I think any parent out there that's raised kids, this is something you think about a lot. And you're like, well, how did they develop these particular traits? Did they get that from me? Did they get that from a spouse? Did they get that from other family members? Do they resemble in personality somebody up the genetic line?
Mm-hmm.
And then you wonder like, oh, how embedded was that? Is that just how they became naturally? And so it's very interesting. Like my children are very different personality-wise, but they came from the same household, and they're just fundamentally very different. And I don't expect either one of them to, be the other one, but I do expect that each of them develops a healthy range within themselves, their version of everything. You need to have, if you're the introvert child, you've got to have your version of speaking to the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might think, boy, do I dislike that.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
you can.
but you've got to be able to do it, and you've got to train yourself to do that because it's a life skill.
Yes. Yeah. I actually really agree with that. I don't think you should change who you are. I don't think you should change identity.
Right.
If there's skills that you want to work on and develop, that's awesome.
And you may organically have a distaste for that.
Yeah.
And it may be the case that even if you get good at it, you walk out of that and go, boy, did I not look forward to that.
Mhm.
Boy, did I not enjoy that. And boy, do I look back at that and think, I don't feel satisfied with that. And I just feel drained. Yeah, that could be a high mileage thing for you that really takes a lot out of your system.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is changeable.
Right.
That's the piece that I don't think is changeable. But I think the outward expression of interaction with other people is a malleable trait because I think humans inherently seem to have to adapt according to the tribe that they're a part of, according to the situations that they're in, the jobs that they're in. There's going to be a pinch point where you have qualities that, are more rigid, and that's the stuff that's harder to change on a whim. But I think anybody with determination and desire can. But I think they change that the same way you change your physical appearance. I think you design almost a program to push yourself to do something new. That doesn't mean you're ever going to like it, but I do think it can mean that you're capable of it.
And you might not be great at it.
Right. It may never be something that you feel like is your favorite thing
Right.
to do or that you feel proud of yourself for doing it, but I think it can broaden your range of human behaviors that you're capable of.
The last thing, too, that you'll want to consider is whether or not Mercury is in retrograde.
That's a big
And-
piece of this.
And
Yeah.
if it is, you definitely want to put an ionic crystal in your left pocket.
Yeah, if the Jupiter's in money house.
But I
situation.
don't like we shouldn't have to say. We all know that. We all know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
just common knowledge.
Well, that's a very blue thing of you to say.
It's
you
true.
know, I was gonna just point out that how blue. Katie, I hope you got exactly the stupid answer that you expected.
At least you're not green.
Yeah.
Because we all know it's not easy
Oh,
being green.
green.
Oh, that's true. It is not easy, as Kermit the Frog once said. We're going to take a quick break,
Thanks for
and
spelling
when
that out.
we come back, people don't just pick up on that, man. That's a subtle one. That's very
not
subtle.
easy being green.
Oh, doesn't he sing? What's the song?
Songs
Rainbow
about rainbows.
Connection.
Rainbow Connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rainbow Connection.
I like that song.
That is a good one.
That's a good
What
song.
is the end of it? The something? The
Lovers,
Dreamers?
the Dreamers, and Me.
That's a beautiful. Thank you for that, Jim.
It's sung by one of the most litigious people in show business, so maybe you steer clear of singing
Yeah,
it.
let's not do any of
all
that.
right, all right,
We're
all
going to
right.
take a quick break, and when
It's a
we
great
come
song,
back,
though.
we are going to talk about how to deepen a stagnant relationship. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's episode is brought to you by Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dunn, Richard Macy, Sammy Scoop, Polygon, and Paris. And if you, too, want to become a therapy producer, head on over to patreon.com/therapy. Our final question.
I'm going to Fonzie
from
this one.
Andrew.
Ooh.
Hey!
Oh,
Hey.
coming in with another blind guess.
All right. Which of the following was not an edit made to the series Gravity Falls
Oh, what a good
in
show.
later releases?
Oh, man, I think you'd honestly like Gravity Falls. I know you don't like cartoons.
So that's one strike against it.
It's a really good show. Oh, man, it's hard to
All right.
describe it. It's got so much
Which of
heart.
the following was not an edit? Oh, so so there's three. So two of these were edits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, A, is Jacob,
My answer.
is saying LGBT scenes were cut.
Okay.
So Jacob's saying they weren't
Oh,
cut.
I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Okay. B, Louis C.K.'s character was redubbed by series creator Alex Hirsch. I'm going to guess that one did happen.
Feels probably good.
Or C, what the hell? Grunkle Stan's Fez used to have a crescent moon on it. It was changed to a fish skeleton.
Gesundheit.
Ah.
Right. I'm going to agree with A.
I thought you said you were going to go with B.
No, I think that B did happen. So this is which one did not happen.
So you're piggybacking on with me.
It's
I
like
am.
one truth
Oh.
and two lies here.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, this is hard. I don't think the first one ever was an issue. I just don't think
Good.
the
Stay the
creators
fuck off
are
my
going
answer.
with that. So that would be one that I do not. So I'm trying to guess the edit that never happened.
Right. So apparently 2 out of these 3 did happen.
Well, then I don't think letter A happened because I don't think they ever needed to remove any scenes. I don't think that was an issue. I just don't think that was something they ever confronted or put into the design. If you know the plot of the show, it wouldn't
we
naturally appear. Like it's not built into the show. I mean, there's 1 or 2 characters.
Oh, what's your answer?
I don't know, man. Because now I'm thinking about Grunkle Stan's Fez, and it does have like a little Pac-Man symbol, but it's also like a crescent, and it could be the bonefish. And now it's got me questioning history here. The Louis C.K. thing
I'm gonna
seems
throw a knife
very
at you.
probable. I don't think they did a lot of guest appearances.
He's not even fucking around with the
Okay.
poker chips.
I'll get
He's-
my answer. I
that's
see him
a-
reaching
he's
for a
got-
chip.
That is a knife.
B.
He legit pulled a knife on you.
Just to be clear, I'm guessing about the thing I don't think happened.
Yes.
Right. That's still what the question is. Yes.
Probably B. I don't think Louis C.K. was ever in court.
All right.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Jacob and I are correct. It's
It
A.
was A. So A never happened.
A never happened.
Okay, but I did say that I didn't
No.
think it
I'm sorry. The LGBT scenes that were written for the show were cut before their first airing, not for later reruns.
Oh.
Tricky question.
Don't care. Moving on.
All right.
2-0. Gosh. In my face.
Hey.
Hey.
right.
Leader of the pack. Grrr. How to deepen a stagnant
Was that a
relationship.
motorcycle?
It was.
That was upsetting.
Nah, come on. Dude. I like to consider myself a voice man. You know, I've got a lot of them. I got a lot of little drops that I
Yeah,
can do.
There's
there's
with
that.
your wipers.
How to deepen a stagnant relationship from Sarah. Hi, Nick, Jacob, and Jim. My boyfriend, Ben, not his real name, and I are both in our early 30s, currently living in the Bay Area, and have been dating for about a year. Ben is about to finish his surgical residency in a few months.
Well done.
That's great. And recently signed a contract for his dream job in Portland, Oregon, which will start in September. I'm not a physician, but I also work in a healthcare profession that requires a doctoral degree and residency. So we both invested a tremendous amount of time and money into our careers, and we both have a lot of respect for each other's goals. Ever since we started dating, Ben has been very open about the fact that he would like to move out of state for a job after his residency. He doesn't have many friends or family in the Bay Area and just can't justify the exorbitant cost of living here. On the other hand, I've been living here for almost a decade and have built a strong support system and professional network for myself. The idea of moving out of state initially scared me, but eventually I came around to the idea. For one, I feel the same way about the cost of living in the Bay Area.
Yep.
And although I love my profession, I don't really enjoy my current job and would probably be looking to switch jobs pretty soon anyway. I also have a few close friends in Portland, so moving out of state does align with some of my own goals. As soon as Ben got the job, we decided I would move to Portland with him and we would start living together, because neither of us wants to do the long distance thing. But here's my issue. After a year of dating, it just doesn't feel like we're as close emotionally as I would have expected us to be by this point. I feel this is because he tends to shut down when certain topics come up that make him uncomfortable. When I try to start a conversation or ask him about certain topics, he'll immediately say something like, "I don't like that, and I don't want to waste any more of my time talking about it." This has happened with a broad range of topics: his family, his childhood friends, a difficult coworker of mine, my close friend coming out as poly, even a documentary I watched about Billie Eilish, just to name a few things. It's gotten to the point where it's difficult for me to even think of things to talk about with him because I never know when I'll accidentally stumble upon one of his seemingly random forbidden topics. Lately, it's become an even bigger issue since I've been trying to start some conversations that are necessary before moving in together, like budgeting and division of household labor. I've lived with a significant other before, so I know how important it is to discuss these things beforehand. But Ben has never lived with a significant other and keeps saying that we can just decide on these things after we move. I struggle with anxiety at baseline, but lately my anxiety has been off the charts from worrying about this constantly, even despite seeing a therapist and increasing the dose of my antidepressant. I have very strong feelings for Ben, and we are very much aligned in terms of hobbies, work ethic, how we envision our future, starting a family, politics, and religion, etc. He's kind, thoughtful, intelligent, funny, highly respected by his friends and colleagues, and has been extremely supportive of me while I faced some personal obstacles this past year. I truly feel he's one of the most incredible people I've ever known, but I just don't see how our bond will be able to strengthen over time if our topics of conversation are so limited, and I'm worried it will hinder our joint decision-making in the future. In the next month or so, I will need to start taking the permanent steps necessary to move, like giving notice at my current job, terminating my apartment lease, and applying for licensure in Oregon, for which I'll have to pay about $2,000 and sit for pretty daunting licensure exams. In other words, it's crunch time, and I can't delay my decision to move much longer. My biggest fear is that our relationship will remain at a standstill after we move, and I'll regret making all these big changes in my life for a relationship that doesn't work out. Do you have any suggestions to help deepen our connection, or how to gently reopen a topic of conversation that was previously shut down? Is there any way for me to reframe this issue in my own mind to quell some of my anxiety? Or, in your experience, is this simply not realistic and I should break things off? Thanks for all you guys do, Sarah. My pronouns are she and her.
Thank you.
Always helpful.
I mean, I'll jump on one first
Go
before the
for it.
guys dig into some of the deeper stuff you asked about. And that is...
The Bay Area is a son of a bitch.
I mean, I
Those
moved here
prices
from
are
the Bay Area.
astronomical.
I moved to Vegas from the Bay Area.
Man,
And it was very pricey.
I hear about it all the time. A lot of
mean,
tech people have
so there is
migrated
that.
out there.
So I get that. I get that aspect of it completely. If you want to move to Portland, move to Portland. If you don't want to move to Portland, don't move to Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Don't move to Portland because of this relationship.
Okay.
Don't make that the only reason that you're going to move to Portland. Like this is not. You're not married. You don't have this long. I don't know how else to say it, but a long committed relationship
Right.
that you're working with here. So don't put all of that onto this relationship.
Yeah.
Give the relationship a little bit more of a chance than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're doing it all based on this relationship, if the move goes poorly, then that's going to go poorly for the relationship.
Yeah.
So, like, having the attitude of, you know what, if the relationship doesn't work out, I could still see myself living in Portland
Exactly.
and being happy.
If you
Right.
want to go to Portland, go to Portland. And if you want to go to Portland, if you know the impetus to go to Portland is this guy I'm dating is and how long did they say that? How long did they say they've been
year.
together?
A year.
About a year.
1
Great.
year.
So this guy I've been dating for a year. He wants to go to Portland. This is as good a reason as any. This is as good a kick in the mouth as any to get me to go to Portland, which I want to do anyway. Awesome. Here we go. And I'm going to move in with this guy, and that's going to have its own hurdles and everything. Moving in with somebody new,
Right.
That's a whole different bag of bees. But I already want to go to Portland. Here's a good excuse to go to Portland.
Good point.
Yeah.
So make that the reason that you're moving, not because your boyfriend wants to go to Portland.
I do think that's actually really good advice. I mean, despite being a life coach, I think that was good.
He's the best life coach in this room.
He is.
He's
He
also
is.
the only one of us with a jingle.
But, you know, I moved to Vegas with my ex-wife,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a mutual decision. We decided
Yes.
to do that. We got divorced 8 years
Mhm.
ago. I'm still here,
Yeah.
Right.
and I do not regret moving to Vegas.
Right.
You know, and I think, yeah,
So you
if I
wanted to
felt
move
like,
to Vegas.
yes, if I was coerced, or if I felt like I'm only moving because she's moving, I wouldn't be here still.
Right.
And
But
if you wanted to, you could have returned.
or gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have gone back to Iowa.
exactly.
You could have gone somewhere else.
Yeah, and
could have gone to the Bay Area.
exactly.
Yeah,
And I'm
never
always
go to the Bay Area.
I'm always a big
It's really nice.
I'm a big fan of people moving out of state anyway.
Okay.
Only because something my old boss back
Me?
in Iowa
Oh, not me.
used to say to me, because he was from Iowa. He lived down in Texas for a while. Then he came back. He was my boss. And he said, yeah, this was when I was an intern.
Mhm.
And I was, going to graduate my master's degree.
Mhm.
And something he had said to me is he said, move out of state. He said,
Deepest thing I've ever heard.
move out of state. Because
It's like a fortune cookie. That
Wherever
man.
you are,
because
wherever you go, leave.
he's like, just get away from me. I don't
Yeah.
care where you go.
I just need you to understand. Move out of state.
But what he said,
and follow the rest of this restraining order.
the point he made though was like, Iowa's always going to be here.
Right.
But after you move, you can move back. But if you move back, you're living here because you chose to live here,
Yeah.
not because it was convenient to live here.
Yeah.
And
Solid
I
point.
thought, you know what, that is a really good point. But here's the other thing that I want to talk about. The very last thing that you said is, is this simply unrealistic, or should I break things off? It seems like a little quick to jump
That's
to that.
premature. Yeah.
So you don't have to act on anything quite yet like that. But if we could talk for a second about your biggest fear, because you said my
Bears.
biggest fear is bears. Also, my biggest fear is our relationship will remain at a standstill after we move, and I'll regret making all the big changes in my life for a relationship that doesn't work out.
Right.
And I think I actually highlighted that, and this was before Jacob said anything, because I think what Jacob's point kind of highlights this too.
Yeah.
But also I think like the biggest fear is that if the relationship doesn't work out, you've made all these big changes. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if the relationship doesn't work out, that these big changes aren't worth it still. There's a lot of things that could still be beneficial as a result. Being able to take a risk and being able to try some different things, trying a new place to live. If things don't work out in the relationship, they don't work out. And if you don't like Portland, you don't like Portland or wherever you go.
Right.
But you've learned something. And I think that's the most valuable piece. Like you tried something,
Yeah.
you learned from it. That's a great experience, as opposed to doing nothing and staying where you're at and never having that experience, even
Right.
being wrong.
The Bay Area is still going to be there
and just as
unless
expensive.
the water levels go up even more.
Right. Yeah, that it might not always be there.
Move to southern Florida.
Yeah. Safest possible
That's
bet.
that's not always going to be there. Like you've got
Move to the Keys.
Yeah.
you've got
Lost
4.5
city of
years
Atlantis.
at most.
Get
Yeah.
there.
Right.
If you haven't visited the Florida Keys, now is a good time.
Get that done. Bucket list. So, Sarah, a couple of pieces of this. I like all this advice. I agree with it. I think that there's a couple of things that you're saying that I think are really important. Like one, you say that Ben just finished his medical residency. So for those who don't know kind of the roadmap of medical stuff, you go get your bachelor's degree, then you go to medical school. Medical school is like 3-4 years, usually more like 4. And when you finish that and you're a doctor, then you can go practice, but then you can get into a specialty, and that's residency. And so what Ben has done is Ben has done 3 years as a surgical resident where he is learning by doing surgery. And so when you finish that, now you have the ability to be a board certified surgeon. So now we can get into the field, still as a new surgeon, but a surgeon in his own right. And this has taken 7 years to get to that point. And residency as a part of a medical person's life is a very big time. It's very high stakes. It's very high stress. It's extremely competitive to get into these programs, and you are just always on edge, and it is a lot. And so part of me, as I think about you dating a man, in the first year of your relationship, it's the last year of his medical residency as a surgeon. I think, boy, I don't know that you're really meeting the version of him that he's going to be next year. And part of me thinks I want to just leave some room for the unknown, because I don't expect that he's not going to change during this time. I think he's going to. And some of what he's doing when he's
I'd be kind of surprised if he didn't.
I think he's going to. And I feel like he's really evasive about all this stuff. As you mentioned, he's really evasive. I try to talk to him about something. He seems like he pivots away from it. He's uncomfortable quickly. And I'm very curious about that, about his emotional depth, his willingness to feel uncomfortable about something. and how hard he pivots from it. I'm not excusing those things. I'm not minimizing those things. I'm very therapeutically curious about those things. But I don't know that I feel like that can't be explored and that can't be developed. And so part of me thinks if you guys were to go forward with this relationship, which has clearly been good for a number of reasons, like you said, he's one of the most special individuals you've ever met. You feel very passionately, very deeply about him. I do have some misgivings about changing one's career and location in life after only a year of relationship. But at the same time, you sound like you're both fully developed adults, right? Like, I mean, we're not talking you're 21 years old and, you have a crush. Like, we're talking, hey, we're both career professionals in hard-to-do trades. We're very even-handed humans, and we've managed to be together for a year during very difficult seasons of career development, right? And so, like, okay, I take that relationship seriously, and it seems like it's worth investing in. I can see you going to Portland. I agree with Jacob. Go for more reasons. Like, you have good friends there. You could see yourself living there. Yes, you also like the Bay Area a lot more than Ben does, but am I really done with this relationship? Probably not. So I don't think there's any reason not to go necessarily. But when you talk about this fear of like his emotional stagnancy, his sort of shallowness, his evasiveness, these are things that I guess I would be interested in you guys maybe talking to a couples therapist about. And you might think, oh, come on, man, we've only been together for a year. Do we really need to start talking about therapy? Is this really the time to do that? Honestly, yeah. I mean, if you're at a crossroads where you're like, I don't know what I want to do here, I wouldn't be afraid to say, Ben, we're about to make some big decisions. I was thinking about scheduling an appointment with a therapist for us because there's some things I feel like we need to be able to talk through. And I don't know that we're doing it the right way. And maybe I'm coming at you in a way that is off-putting, and so you're shutting down and you don't feel safe to talk through some things. But I'm getting this impression that you're not willing to talk through some things that I feel we need to be able to discuss, like our lives together, like important topics. And that's something that a therapist wants to facilitate and can sometimes take people to that outside their comfort zone place just long enough to be productive, and then let them kind of go back to where they need to go. And sometimes that's the job that we're here to do, to create that temporary environment that those conversations can be had, and to also understand and explore why the person has that sort of reservation and evasiveness about other things. So I wouldn't want you to give up on this, especially because I'm so intellectually curious about his behaviors, and I wonder what a therapist on the ground would make of that. And so I would encourage you to at least leave that door open before you sign off on this. I would encourage you to maybe take that step into a temporary therapeutic design where you can say, look, my treatment goal here is to just explore this, have some meaningful conversations about some things I feel like we got to talk about that sometimes Ben is evasive about. I want a therapist to help us talk through those things in a way that Ben feels comfortable and I feel satisfied with. Fine. That is a normal thing to ask a therapist to do, and I think that could be really effective here.
How long do you think you would wait for somebody to open up? Because sometimes this is just how it happens. You know, I mean, sometimes people don't open up in the first year, and they just kind of have to. It takes a while for them to kind of let their guard down. The other thing too that I'm thinking about, I mean, they're both very busy. I mean, it's a lot of work what they're doing, and how often do they really get to see each other?
Yeah, that could be
I mean, so maybe that's part of it too. If you're so busy and you're stressed out with work and with, completing the residency and all that stuff that you see each other on,
and you don't want to waste your time.
And you don't,
and that's one of the things he says. I don't want to waste my time with this unpleasant conversation. Sometimes when somebody really has a low budget of time, they're like, look, I don't want to spend this precious Saturday morning that we have together talking about something that it feels icky to me or I find distasteful.
Well, I guess what I'm kind of getting
part
at,
of it.
I guess what I'm kind of getting at is, if you don't get to spend that much time together, what seems like a year, what is a year, may seem like it's only 6 months.
When she says, I don't feel like we're emotionally developed.
Because
good point.
Like, I mean, if you only see each other on weekends,
right?
That year,
the log time together is minimal.
Right.
Good point. That's a really good point.
Could be a 2.
And
maybe
sounds like
could you ask for suggestions on kind of how to kind of rebroach these topics? Maybe have a bit of a conversation with him and ask him about, is this why you don't want to have these conversations with, kind of a time budgeting thing? And that may very well be it. and an idea to kind of get around that and to work through these things that you need to work through anyway, email.
Could also be a way to talk through some things.
Like here's something that I feel like we like
change
budgeting.
the way you talk about it.
We need to think up some budgeting ideas and whatnot. Here's an email thread.
Yeah.
Let's just start exchanging this when you have a couple of minutes on a break or something like that during the day. Maybe you can just throw back here's a little email to it.
Yes.
Maybe something along those lines and kind of get creative with how to use that time.
That's a really good way to sometimes address topics that don't come up organically or the other person isn't taking seriously. And you're right, Sarah, Ben's probably a little naive. He's never lived with a significant other. He doesn't realize there's some topics that need some front discussion. And, this is kind of the deal. And I think you're able to tell him, hey, in my lived experience, it's good that we talk about this. And he may say, well, I think we'll be just fine. I don't want to get ahead of problems that don't exist yet. We're going to have to tackle them as they come, which, fine, he may have some logic to that. I think all three of us are saying we're not hearing deal breakers. We're not wanting you to bail. I don't think it's abandoned ship. I think it's lean in. It sounds like you have something special. And I think it's continue to explore. However, I would add this one caveat. If you're looking at this and feeling like, boy, this has given me a lot of anxiety. I feel like I'm gambling with my career and my life, and I'm not sure that this is a safe bet for me yet. I don't want you to feel like you got to burn down what you got before you go to Oregon. I feel like you can take a middle approach where you say, Ben, head to Oregon. You're going there. That is where you are going to start your career. Go. We are not that far away. We can try the distance thing for a little while. Why don't we let you get settled there? Why don't we continue this relationship? And you know what? Maybe soon after I will come with you if I continue to feel that we're growing. Or why don't we start talking to that couples therapist while you're in Oregon, while I'm still in the Bay? And why don't we try to facilitate intentional time together? But these are my concerns, Ben. And I feel like if we can address these together, then I'm right with you, baby. I'll be on the next flight out there, driving a U-Haul right behind me with all my stuff. But this is the stuff that I need you to help me get through so that I can feel safer to do this. And that might take a month. That might take 2 months. That might take 3 months of doing a little bit of a distance relationship while you're working on that other stuff. And that's a middle ground, Sarah, and I don't think that's wrong. So I don't want you to feel like it's do or die.
I agree.
But you also probably wrote this letter over a month ago. So write in and let us know what you decided.
And let me know what his issue is with Billie Eilish. I'm just curious.
I have issues with Billie Eilish, too. I just don't understand it. I think I've reached the age where I don't get it anymore. I'm like, why are the kids into this weird, scary funk pop thing? I don't get it. They call it
I like Billie Eilish.
Scary rock or whatever.
If you haven't yet, watch the whatever David Letterman's new show on Netflix is.
My Next Guest
That's
is?
it.
Yeah.
The latest season, he has an episode with Billie Eilish.
Oh, wow.
And her brother. And it's a great episode.
Is it really?
Yes.
I sometimes get a little resentful of these young starlets getting to sit with like legendary icon David Letterman, who I would perfectly be comfortable with like former presidents sitting next to.
I think if you watch this episode, I think you especially would actually like it.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah.
We've reached the end of the show. The part where we thank all the people that make the show possible.
Like Billie Eilish.
Like Billie Eilish, I think. And because this is the first week of a new month, we like to stop and thank all the folks who support us at the Therapod level and above. If you like this kind of stuff and you think, man, mental health, I'm glad this is a topic. I'm glad this content exists. I'm glad these guys are doing it in a sincere way that's also silly and casual. Please help make it possible. Go to patreon.com/therapy. It finances this project and makes it something we can continue to do. And of course, even more important than that, go to votejim.net. Just go to votejim.net and get a vote in there every day, every device. Help me capture the white whale. The glory will be legendary.
Bronze medal.
And I will be celebrating. But we have some new Therapals. Nick, who has joined the party?
Christina Powell, welcome. Colonel Brooke,
I believe it's pronounced colonel.
It's
French.
Probably wrong. And Martin thank you, Martin, and Sundog.
I like it. Thanks for all of our new Therapals. We have some new Therapods as well. Why don't you read that list since I'm going to do the full bounty of them.
New Therapods, Kyle, welcome to the show. And we also have Duffy, the slowly getting there therapist bear.
Love Duffy. Duffy's great. We're friends on Twitter, and Duffy is currently going through the process of finishing out the therapy prereqs and getting everything right to get into the profession.
Yeah, not doing too bad for a bear.
That's right. Some bears, they can ride unicycles.
Yeah.
Some bears catch salmon in their mouths, and some bears really sit down and dive deep.
Yeah.
They talk about the shit that really matters.
You've
Not all
obviously
bears can
not
do
seen
that.
Winnie the Pooh.
I consider
That's
Winnie
a bear
the Pooh.
that knows what's up. He knows what's up.
He knows what's up. When his tummy's a rumbling,
Yeah.
don't come a knocking. All right, thanks to all theropods who support the show. We're talking about Dan Martin, who's in our fantasy football league. Change your name, Dan. Pick out something cool. Kate Keller, Scoopstronaut, Corey Owens, Linda Brandmeier, Joseph Pengrazio, Brad Kiefaver, Christine Phillips, Tracy Raplogel, Gavin Bristow, Carrie Terhark, Stacy Westerlin, Richard Bruins, Scoopy Jess, Ian Whitefall, Chelsea Saracen, Craig Little, James K, Kiwi Fruit.
Kiwi Fruit Scoop.
Thank you. Katie Chiwakowski, Don Dorr, Jim Hunter, Adam Rabiznik, Brooks Lyle, Okie Scoop, Matthew Nair, 3 Scoops, a Lady, Take It Evie Podcast, Todd Canfield, David Sorensen, Felicia Butler, Shayla Bullock, Scoopatron, Lauren Izzo, Stacy Coleman, Adam Pedinuzzo, Mats Lenegren, Heather, Ulrika, Ian Soto, nailed it, Jessica Cyphers, Andrew Langmead, Charlie Quinn Starling, Natalie MC, that Josh guy, Kernapiller, Dr. Scoop Little, Mama Ninja Scoop, James Dawson, Colson Morrow, Jacob Harrington, Amanda H., Grumpy Lake Mead Park Ranger, Sarah Olo, Kiana, Sam Buck, Karen McCulloch, Lee Popsicle, Megan Smith, Scoop NATO Bait, Kate with an eye, Chris the Scoopless, What Weekend, Michael Madinet, Some Nobody, Ethan Levine, maybe, Leela, Ginger G, Lovely Spark, Nippy, Alec Lancaster, Anna, Keely Benty, Lil Bear, Anona Nurse, and Duffy, the slowly getting there, Therapist Bear, and Kyle.
And thank you to all of our pterodactyls like Ice Blue Scoop, Brian Lehman, Scott Brady, Fred Bashara Jr., Andrea Anderson, Lindsay Bashara, Robert Paulson, Colin, Slurpikaye Motherfucker, Frozen Cusser, Lori Elsroth, Angie Ellis, Ryan Stewart, Scott Ashlock, Robert Ward, Chris, Sandra McWaffle, Cy Shenonigan, Not a Scoop, Solo Cody, Dank Butter, and Tony Skyena.
Why did that become a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know why. This is like the one thing in all of history you've decided to throw some sass at, and you're consistent with it.
I don't know.
It's just always consistent.
It's fun.
Before I read the Thera producers, I just want to remind you, if you support the show at patreon.com/therapy, you also get the birthright of accessing our fun Discord, where our community congregates to discuss mental health, support each other, cheer each other on, be silly throughout the day, and sometimes you will even cite Nick and I lurking and commenting along with them. And so you can actually engage us in conversation when you can spot us. Of course, Nick is the unicorn that people only have heard about in this stuff of legend, even though he has a channel in there that is meant to talk to him, but still. And even less occasionally, Jacob appears. Very rarely. This is like
I am the blue moon.
He is the blue moon of the Discord server. He fades into the skyline, looks down upon the people, graces them with his vision, and then silently disappears into the night.
I'm like the wind.
Patreon.com/therapy. You can access the Discord, but we want to thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, those Thera producers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, King of Student Loan Debt, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malia, Richard Macy, Cindy Ash, Newstick, Dirty B, Ben Stanley, Sammy Scoop, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Tess Miller, Paris, Myra Lib, Darren Cunningham, Samantha Cone, and Thunder Cougar Falcon Scoop.
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That is all the time we got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, go to votejim.net every day, every device throughout the entire month and help me win the white whale of my gold goddamn trophy
Silver
as
whale.
Best of Las Vegas.
Bronze whale.
Don't forget you can find us at Instagram as PodTherapyGuys, on Facebook as PodTherapy, and at patreon.com/therapy. Also, we're on Twitter.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? You can ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email
we're
us
so highbrow.
at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangent.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for
That
your
was
appointments next week.
The highbrow level of the show.
Great
I think
show.
bidet is highbrow potty humor.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good one.